We are already living in a digitalized world whose end goal is to monitor, collect, and analyze digital data through AI, facial recognition, and spyware, all in the name of security, convenience, and for commercial purposes. Yet at the same time, there are concerns in regard to privacy, civil liberties, and potential for misuse. The Bible tells us that a time is coming when Sabbath keepers will be monitored and tracked. Already, metadata analysis can reveal religious habits by tracking. In some regions such as China, digital surveillance is used to identify and persecute Christians, with AI-driven programs searching for keywords in online meetings and integrating with social credit systems to punish religious activity. The book of Revelation tells us that a time is coming very soon, that unless and until one has the mark of the beast, he or she cannot buy or sell. It is not a literal mark, as most Christians believe, but it is an invisible mark based on your decision that is connected to worship. It is all about authority. Whom will you obey? Will you obey man's laws or God's law? And so the visible issue that will divide the world's population will be the global law of worship. Once the one global beast system is completed, then every individual will be brought to the test, and a decision has to be made whether they will accept the mark of the beast or the mark of the seal. And so if you go to Revelation chapter 13 verse 17, clearly it tells us that a day is coming that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. And so, last Sabbath, I showed you the agenda for the for the Seventh-day Adventist Church. The agenda has been going on for several years. Now only the 10th point has to be fulfilled to make Seventh-day Adventists understand that if they do not unite with Catholics and Protestants to seek world peace, they will be guilty of all the evils and disasters that come upon the earth. And so we know a time is coming that force will be used, whether you like it or not. Because the Bible clearly tells us, again if you look at Revelation 13:17, that a day is coming no man might buy or sell unless he had the mark or the name of the beast or the number of his name. So this day is not far off. And Sabbath keepers will be in the spotlight. And therefore, I decided to bring this message, especially for Seventh-day Adventists and for those who are keeping Sabbath on their own. They have not joined God's end-time church, but are Sabbath keepers. And so the title of my presentation is entitled, The Beast System Prepares Adventists for the Sunday Law. We all know as Seventh-day Adventists that Sunday is not the Lord's day. That's very clear in our mind. But the devil knows that if he creates a system an economic system, he can get many Seventh-day Adventists to keep Sunday. And so this message is a very important message, because I need to reveal to you what this system is all about. We know in Bible prophecy, a beast represents a kingdom. So the book of Revelation is filled with symbols, but these are not literal symbols. So we don't have a literal beast. No, this beast represents a kingdom. Which kingdom that is? We all know it is the Roman Catholic Church, the Vatican. This is the kingdom that is preparing us an economic system in order to woo and to force Adventists to keep Sunday. That system has not been completed, but is at the verge of completion. I know today, majority of Seventh-day Adventists will say, well, I'll never keep Sunday. But wait for that day. When that day shall come, the majority of Seventh-day Adventists will keep Sunday. Despite knowing that it is not the Lord's day, many will keep Sunday. So what is this beast system? Now here, the superpower, the visible superpower, the United States of America is pushing the world, is pushing God's people to get in line and to accept this beast system. So America is bringing the world to this beast system. How do we know this? Well, the Bible clearly tells us in Revelation 13 verse 12 that America, now remember from verse 11 onwards, it talks about the United States of America. Verse 1 to verse 10 in Revelation 13 talks about the first beast, the Roman Catholic Church. So here it says, and he, who is this he? The United States of America, exerciseth all the power of the first beast. That means the United States of America will exercise all the Catholic social teachings in her country. And then it says, and cause it, and makes the earth and them which dwell therein to do what? To worship the first beast. Who is the first beast? The Roman Catholic Church. So the Bible clearly tells us that the United States of America will bring all nations, everyone, to worship the first beast. Now, America is seen as a Protestant nation, not a Catholic nation. And therefore, countries that know about the Church of Rome and her past history will not go back to Rome, because they know that many years ago, for 1,260 years, the Church of Rome brought great persecution. But now, it is the United States of America that brings such nations back to Rome. So here, America will push the world to accept this beast system. Now, this beast system is a digitalized system. Now, I'm not going to go in depth, but just to show you how this one world system will function in this world. Now, those of you who are accountants, who know about economy, will understand what is a ledger. Right now, a unified ledger is being created. It is a platform where all central bank digital currencies, all digital monies of various countries would be interlinked on this platform, where global transaction would be tracked and verified. How many of you would like for the system to know what you are buying and what you are selling. You do not like that because it's something very personal. But now with every transaction is going to be transparent. It is a platform where digital identity would be integrated with digital money. Now you've heard about digital ID. In India, we already have our digital ID. It's called the Aadhaar card. For those in UK, it is news for you because digital ID will come for you all. So it'll be connected to your digital money in a single system, one single global system for the entire planet. And this is being actively developed today. Pilot projects are in motion and a timeline is being set. So this is what's happening. And so the World Economic Forum that is going on right now is pushing for digital identity. And the United Nations is creating the legal and political framework. You see how they work hand in hand. The World Economic Forum and the United Nations. So they are designing this financial infrastructure. Now I know when I talk about money, everyone wakes up. Everyone will come to this platform to listen. Why? Because money affects everyone. If you don't have money, how will you survive? And therefore, everyone is interested when you talk about money. Now, let me tell you this, that very soon, money will not be in your hands. And therefore, it's very important for you to come to this platform to listen what is coming in the very near future. What is the ultimate goal by having this B system? Its ultimate goal is to unite, now listen carefully, is to unite conscience and commerce. The two C's. What did I say? To unite conscience. You know, everyone has got his or her conscience. So to unite conscience and commerce under one authority. Now we know who that authority will be. It will be the Antichrist. Now I know preachers have been preaching about this no buy, no sell policy that is coming up. But have they really understood how this will come into existence? And that is where I did a study to find out. And I found out that they want to unite conscience and commerce under one authority. So it is not by a literal military conquest, not by legions and swords, but by a digital infrastructure that penetrates every aspect of our daily life. So how does digital money works? Now, most of you must be using digital money. Every time you use your digital money, how does it work? The system automatically checks your ID, checks if you are authorized for that purchase, checks if you are in compliance, checks if you are following all the rules and regulations, and if you have all the list ticked mark, then you can do the transactions. If you don't have the tick mark, there is no appeal. What can you do? You can do nothing. There is no alternative outside this B system. The mechanism is not mystical, but it is procedural. And that is why this B system is so dangerous. Because this system can control our conscience. Now, as you look at Revelation 13, verse 12, it says that America will cause the earth and all nations to do what? To worship. So the issue is about worship. Remember when the great controversy began in heaven? Lucifer, who became Satan, rebelled against God's government. He proclaimed himself as a freedom fighter for the heavenly host. And sadly, 1/3 of the heavenly hosts were deceived by the devil. Why did Satan started this controversy in heaven? Because he wanted to be worshipped. And this is the agenda of the devil. His primary agent is the Roman Catholic Church. And through the Roman Catholic Church, the devil wants to bring all humanity to his feet, to bow down and worship him on the false day of the Lord. He claims himself to be the Almighty Lord, but we know that Satan is the devil. So this is where we are heading to. This beast system will apply pressure on God's people so that they will succumb and worship on the wrong day of the Lord. And that is Sunday. Something that stands in direct opposition to the seal of God. America is playing a leading role in the end of time to bring nations back to Rome under the Antichrist. As the pen of inspiration says, the Roman Catholic principles will be taken under the care and protection of the state. And so, this beast system is coming that no man can escape, not even Seventh-day Adventists. No Sabbath keepers can escape this system, and this system is being created right now in this last generation. And therefore, each time I have my presentation, it's not for the sake of just having a presentation. It is a presentation that shows you how close we are to the end of this world. To show you how close the Sunday law is coming for God's people. It is to prepare God's people for that time. Because if you are not prepared mentally, spiritually, and physically, we will succumb to this beast system, and you will be keeping Sunday as the Lord's day. So this one world government will usher in the beast system. Now when you go back and look at Daniel chapter 2 and also Daniel chapter 7, that is the enlargement of Daniel 2. We are all familiar with these world governments that have come and gone. Babylon has come and gone. Medo-Persia has come and gone. Greece has come and gone under Alexander the Great. Then the Caesars came. Pagan Rome has come and gone. But the Bible clearly says that after this world empire, pagan Rome, they shall not arise another world government. For the kingdom shall be what? Divided. And we know after pagan Rome fell in 476 AD, no world kingdom rose up. But now looking at this multi-metal image, where are we now? Are we at the head? No, we're right at the feet. Feet of iron and potter's clay. What does iron and potter's clay represent? Church and state. And so here we're living in this time that iron and clay will mingle with each other. Homogeneously, they will not mix together, but they will cling with each other for a short time. That means there will be a world government, but it's not going to last long. There will be a church union with state. Church and state will unite. There will be the persecution that will be rekindled. So now my question is, when you talk about this one world government, pagan Rome, it was a vast kingdom. You can see how big the Roman Empire was. It was so vast that Emperor Constantine said that he had to shift his capital from Rome to Constantinople, that is in Turkey, Istanbul, because the empire was so big that he wanted to have more control in the eastern part of pagan Rome. So therefore, how did this world empire function? That is the question. How did it function? Now here Daniel chapter 2 verse 40 tells us, "And the fourth kingdom shall be strong as iron, for as much as iron breaketh in pieces and subdueth all things." Remember, iron is the strongest metal. So any opposition, pagan Rome would go and destroy that opposition. It was an iron kingdom, fittingly represented by that strong metal called iron. So how did pagan Rome rule this vast empire? Now, why am I doing this study? The reason is you can draw many lessons and to connect with the present one world government that is being formed. Now, Rome had the right tools of power to control the world. Remember, pagan Rome controlled its world through what? Through roads. Now, if you study more about the Roman roads, they were the key to Rome's military might because they laid roads throughout their empire. Whenever there was an opposition rising up, the Roman army would be there the very next day. How? Because of the beautiful roads that they made. They had access to every part of their kingdom. Next, they were incredibly efficient. And so the Roman armies would be there in time to crush every opposition that rose up in their kingdom. Next, they were expertly engineered. Now this is where my country needs to learn how to make roads. They have to study how the Romans made roads. It was perfectly engineered. No potholes. The roads were lasting because it had good engineering. Next, they were easy to navigate. So therefore, the army could reach whatever spot in their kingdom with ease. Next, they included a sophisticated network of post houses and roadside inns. So, food and lodging was not a problem in that period in time, and therefore pagan Rome was a great empire. They were well protected and patrolled. So the roads were protected. Next, they were built to do what? To last. Unlike today's road, every 3 years there is a road repair work going on. Unlike in the days of pagan Rome, the roads were lasting. And then finally, the roads allowed the Romans to fully map their growing empire. And that was the greatness of pagan Rome. So today, when you look at this coming one world government, where they will have a one global system, look at the roads today. If you look at my country, it says 43% highways built in April, January are 4 lanes. Now, those of you who live in India will know what I'm talking about. 20 years ago, or say 25 years ago, we never had good roads. We never had what we call the expressway with 4 lanes. But today, we have these great roads, 4 lanes. Why? It's all to do with control. And so when you look at these 4 lanes roads in India and all other parts of the world, we find that there are checkposts, there are toll booths. So you cannot just disappear from one big city to the next city. This is the only road that you can take. But remember, they have checkposts. And so, in India, everyone needed to have what we call a fast tag. But very soon, the fast tag will turn and become a Sunday tag. Unless and until you have the mark of the beast, you cannot drive on these roads. So what will you do? Well, in India, digitalization is going at a great speed. Very soon, such toll booths will be outdated because they're going to implement what we call a global navigation satellite system. For what? For tolling roads where? In India. And so, you will be what? Monitored. How? Through satellite. You will not have to go through a toll booth where the bar has to go up. No more toll booth in India. It will be a satellite-based toll collection system. So from the sky, they will monitor you. And also when you look at the number plates here in India, they're all high security registration plate. There's no escape once the one world government is formed. And look at the latest vehicles today. They have what we call a kill switch system in every new vehicle that you purchase, whether it's a 2-wheeler or whether it's a 4-wheeler. Why this kill switch? For what do we need to have this kill switch system? Well, this technology could transform your vehicle into a judgmental machine. So the kill switches, or we can better call them the immobilizers, are generally controlled by the vehicle's onboard computer system, which can be triggered by the owner, by the law enforcement, or automatic safety mechanism controlled by AI. So even if you put the key in the ignition, it will not start because of the kill switch. You see what is happening? This kill switch system, I know it's being debated right now in America, but the deadline is for the year 2026. And so, what did Jesus tell us in Luke 21? Verse 20. Jesus said, "When ye shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, then know that the desolation thereof is nigh." Now we are not to look for a literal army that should surround your city. Well, right now in Minnesota, the army is coming in. But well, you need to look at such systems that are being brought into this world. Talk about the kill switch system. Talk about this satellite collection base system. These are systems, what I call it as the beast system, because it will control your daily life. And so Jesus is telling us that when you shall see Jerusalem compassed with armies, these spiritual armies, these invisible armies, when they surround God's people, then what Jesus tells us in verse 21, those of you who are in Judea, flee where? To the mountains. And let them which are in the midst of it depart out. And verse 22 says, "For these be the days of vengeance, that all things which are written may be fulfilled." So Jesus has given us the warning that we may flee where? To the mountains, to be self-sufficient. Next, how did pagan Rome rule its world government? Well, through her laws. There were laws that were legislated during the pagan Roman Empire. Laws that kept the kingdom as one nation. But what is very interesting is when you look now at this structure. Now some of you will say, well, that looks like a bridge, but that's not a bridge. This is an aqueduct. What is an aqueduct? Aqueducts are man-made channels for water. It's a pipe system for water designed to transport water from a source to a distribution point. So the Romans supplied fresh waters to various cities in their kingdoms for drinking purposes, for irrigation, for baths, for fountains, for homes. And how did it work? This system relied on gravity. It flowed through structures like what you see on the screen, arch bridges like. This is how pagan Rome provided water for her kingdom. And any opposition that should rise up, the water would be stopped. Without water, a city could not survive. So this is how it works with gravity. That's the Roman aqueduct. They create a reservoir, then you have the intake, and then it flows downhill towards the city. And so you have these bridges that are made, the aqueduct bridge, to bring waters from distant sources to the city. And that's how the people who live in that period in time under pagan Rome, the last world empire, they were not opposing this world government because they depended on water from pagan Rome. And so they had a network like this during pagan Rome's time. And so it became a very familiar and popular monument that they have put this also on the euro currency and also in the coins. It's everywhere. And so today, water is a very important item for survival. But because of climate change, what is happening today? The threat of shortage of water is being projected in the world today. Look what is in the news. It says the world has entered a new era of water bankruptcy with irreversible consequences. And so here they're talking about what? They're talking about climate change, how climate change has reduced water for this planet. Why is this being projected? So that the world will come together and that they will form this one world government. So here we see that the Roman Empire relied on their aqueducts, and if they wanted security, the people had to depend on their armies. So it was a control system through what? Through infrastructure. Rome controlled its empire through infrastructures. Well, that is history. But let us come to our days now. We know now it's 2000 years ago, but the same principle is being used, not with literal infrastructures, but through digital infrastructure, through digital identity, through digital money, through digital verification at every gate. So the goals of today's global power is no different from the past empires in its goals. Today, these modern methods are being used to penetrate our lives today. And so, this is what is happening today, is to create a one digital system. And therefore today, if you look at the news, read the news, what is the world talking about? Talking about digital infrastructures. They're talking about digital identity. They're talking about digital money. They're talking about digital verification. And so, how different are the world leaders today from the Caesars and Napoleons? No different. It's just that they had their literal infrastructures where they could control their world government. But today, the globalists do not have their literal infrastructures, but they have their digital infrastructures. And so, the net is tightening. And the question is, are we prepared when this beast system will come? Do we really understand what is coming? Or are we just butting our heads in the sand and we're saying, well, let's just pray God will take care of us. That's true, God will take care of his faithful few, provided they make physical preparation as well as spiritual preparation and mental preparation. So we need to understand where we are in time. And so a global web of control is being spun around us today. And that is where this entire infrastructure stands ready to devour the whole earth just by the push of a button. You see how easy it is? When everything goes digital, just by the push of a button, the entire digital infrastructure will devour the whole earth. For it is the Roman Empire being reborn in code. And so an invisible net is tightening around humanity, especially around Sabbath keepers. Remember, the target is Sabbath keepers. And therefore this message is important for Seventh-day Adventists, and it's important for Sabbath keepers wherever they are. They may not be in a denomination. Wherever they are, this message is for them. And so the Bible clearly tells us that a time is coming, once this beast system is created and implemented, then all that dwell upon the earth shall do what? Shall worship him. So if we should worship the beast, it means we are lost forever, because it says, who worships him? Those names that are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. So this beast system is going to devour everyone in this world. And then verse 3 says, and then this verse will be fulfilled when all the world will wander after the beast. And so now, 2,000 years later, the same principle is being what? Digitized. This is what's happening. I know there are many people who are not reading between the lines, and they think by having digitalization in their economy is a great idea. It's so convenient. Today, if you look at the Gen Z's generation, they are so happy. They don't have to carry paper notes. Oh, everything is on the mobile app. Everything is digital. I have my bank account on my mobile. It's so convenient. So they believe that such a system is indeed a great system. But it is a system that will control everyone's life. And very soon, paper money is going to disappear. Though paper money is not real money, but at least paper money gives us what? Freedom. Freedom to buy what you want to buy. Freedom to buy and no one knows what you bought. You have that freedom. But once money becomes digitalized and becomes mandatory, because the system will push us into a corner, that you have no other choice but to go digital. And so, the digital infrastructure is here with us, and it is at the verge of completion. Now, 2,000 years ago, John the Revelator, it seems like he had this vision. Because he says here in Revelation 13 verse 17, that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark. How did John the Revelator know about this? Well, God showed him a vision. And John the Revelator could see that a control system was coming. A control system to control. How will this system work? To control through what? Digital infrastructure. To control through what? Digital ID. To control through what? Digital money. And eventually, through digital verification at every gate of transaction. It is amazing how God revealed this to John the Revelator 2,000 years ago, John the Revelator knew about this buy, no sell policy. As he says here, that no man might buy or sell save he that had the mark. What is the mark? That is Sunday. And so, John the Revelator saw a total global economic control mechanism when? 2,000 years ago. And so, through the digital technology, we know that a day is coming, as mentioned in the Bible, that God's people will reach a point in time that they cannot buy or sell unless they observe the spurious Sabbath, which is Sunday. And so we know that a day is coming very soon, that there will be a law. A law of what? A law of worship. Now, what is this mark? The mark of the beast is not a microchip as most Christians believe. But remember, it is going to be connected to the law of worship. This law of worship is coming very soon, because Revelation 13 verse 8 tells that a day is coming that all that dwell upon the earth, it does not say some, but it says all that dwell upon the earth shall do what? Shall worship him. So here it concerns about worship. The visible issue is going to be about worship. Which day would you worship? Then in verse 15 it says, a threat is put out to the world that says that as many as would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So all those who refuse to worship and to bow down on that spurious Sabbath, Sunday, would be what? Would be killed. And so, we know that the mark of the beast is not a microchip, because the real issue of the mark is what? Worship. It's about allegiance. It's about authority. And so the mark of the beast is connected to worship. Receiving it is not just using a tool, carrying an ID. Instead, it is choosing an authority. It is giving allegiance. It is the public sign of who is obeyed when human law conflicts with God's law. So what is the visible issue that will divide the world? It is the law of worship. And so the Bible clearly tells us that it is not something that is seen or visible, because the Bible clearly tells us in verse 4 that the mark will not be on the hand or on the forehead, but here it says in their right hand, in their forehead. And so it is not about technology versus no technology. It's not about that. The issue is about what? The issue is going to be about your obedience to God or to rebel against God. It's all about Sabbath versus what? Versus Sunday. This is the issue in the end of time. So it's not something literal that you can see it. Well, the visible issues about worship. Which day would you worship? Sabbath, the Lord's day, or Sunday, the devil's day? So if you go to Exodus chapter 13, it says here, "And Moses said unto the people, Remember this day in which ye came out from Egypt." So Moses is telling to the children of Israel, don't forget how God brought you out of Egypt, out of the house of bondage. By whose strength? For by strength of hand the Lord brought you out from this place. And so there shall no leavened bread be eaten. So they had to eat unleavened bread. For how long? For 7 days, to remind themselves how God brought them out from Egypt. How God brought them out from the bondage of sin, because Egypt represents sin. And so when this day came, when? On the first month of the Hebrew calendar. That's between March and April. It's called the month Abib or Aviv. This is the first month in the Jewish calendar. And verse 8 says, "And thou shalt show thy son in that day, saying, This is done." Because the children will ask, why are you eating unleavened bread for 7 days? It is to remind the children of Israel how God brought them out from darkness into this marvelous light. Brought them out from the bondage of sin, brought them out from slavery. And that's the reason the Lord is saying, show thy son in that day, saying, This is done because of that which the Lord did unto me when I came forth out of Egypt. And then in verse 9 it says, "And it shall be for a sign unto thee upon thine hand." So it's not something literal. Now you're getting the point. It's not something literal. "And for a memorial between thine eyes." That means the Lord's law may be in thy mouth. For with a strong hand had the Lord brought thee out of Egypt. So now, when the mark of the beast will come, who will be true to the Lord? That's the great question we need to be asking ourselves. Will I be able to stand when the Sunday law comes? Now sadly, I have to say that majority of Sabbath keepers, majority of Seventh-day Adventists will receive the mark of the beast in their right hand. Why do I say this? Let's go back to verse 9. It says, "And it shall be for a sign unto thee upon thine right hand." Thine hand, it says, okay? "And also between thine eyes." So when you look here at Revelation 14 verse 9, the warning from the third angel, it says, the third angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, "If any man worship the beast and his image, and receive his mark in his forehead or in his hand, then he will receive the wrath of God." So here, remember, when the mark of the beast comes, it is not something literal that the world can see. It is something that you have to make a decision in your mind. And then eventually the world will know on whose side you are because of the decision that you made. So now it says forehead or in his hand. Now we know that the seventh day is the right Sabbath. But if we don't work on that day, we will lose our jobs. Now many of of our people love their jobs. Some believe that they'll be with their jobs till the end. But let me tell you this, a time is coming, you will lose your jobs. What will you do? Now, who are these people who will receive the mark of the beast in their hand? These are people who have no Sunday Sabbath in their minds. They are like atheists. They do not believe in it, but their hand obeys it. Why? Because hand represents what? Work. You work with your hands. You work with your right hand. So because of job's sake, though they are atheists, though they do not believe in this Sunday Sabbath issue, but automatically by going to work on the Lord's Day and keeping Sunday, they will receive the mark of the beast in their right hand. So the majority of people who are secular minded, who believes in humanism, and those who are nominal Seventh-day Adventists will receive the mark of the beast in their right hand. Why? Because they want to survive. They don't want to be cancelled out from society. So people who have a form of godliness will receive the mark of the beast in the right hand. People who are secular minded and those who do not believe in God, they will receive the mark of the beast in their right hand. What about those receiving in their foreheads, the frontal lobe, where you make decisions? They know that the 7th day is the true Sabbath, but because their love for their friends, their church, and their old ways more than the unpopular truth, they receive the mark in their foreheads. So they know that the Sabbath of the Lord is on Saturday, but because church is more important to them, friends are more important to them, and therefore they reject the Lord's true Sabbath on Saturday. So people who make religion as an identity will receive the mark of the beast in their foreheads. People who are nominal Christians, nominal Seventh-day Adventists will receive the mark of the beast in their forehead. And those who are very defensive of church and they believe whatever the pastor says, that's the gospel truth, they will receive the mark of the beast in their foreheads. And so this digital infrastructure is taking us there, and it becomes the enforcement mechanism to do what? To pressurize, to restrict, and to punish Sabbath breakers. Now, why did I use this term, Sabbath breakers? I got this word from the archives. I went to this website and I studied more about the Sunday law that would have been passed in the 18th century. And here in this bill 84, it says a bill for punishing disturbers of religious worship and Sabbath breakers. Now this bill was presented to Congress. It is there. And let me tell you this, that history will repeat. And therefore, once the digital infrastructure is completed, then AI can identify who's a Sabbath keeper. And very soon, a time is coming that we will not be able to buy and sell. And so, a time is coming that you will have to make a choice. Whether you want to go with the system in order to retain your job and your livelihood, or whether you want to be with Jesus, who in faith will give you your provisions. Now here it says in the Great Controversy book, page 443, whenever the church has obtained secular power, she has employed it to do what? To punish dissent from her doctrines. Protestant churches that have followed in the steps of Rome by forming alliance with worldly powers have manifested a similar desire to restrict what? Liberty of conscience. And that's why church and state should be separate. But you see what's happening today? Church and state are coming together. And so an example of this is given in the long-continued persecution of dissenters by the Church of England. During the 16th and 17th centuries, thousands of nonconformist ministers were forced to flee from where? Not from the government, but from their very own churches. And many, both of pastors and people, were subjected to fine, imprisonment, torture, and martyrdom. This is what went on in the past. So once the digital infrastructure is completed, then the question is, are you prepared to give up your career? Are you prepared to give up your job, your business, your institution, your property, and the list goes on and on. Now, listen to some important people, what they had to say about the Sunday law, so that you will be prepared what is coming in our time.
This is one of the things I write about in the book. American states, not federal government, but American states had laws. They were called Sunday laws or blue laws, and they deeply impacted anyone who did not abide by them, so that you could not work on Sundays. Even today you have sort of remnants of these laws that you can't sell alcohol on Sunday until a certain time. And I wasn't aware that Project 2025 was trying to essentially reinstitute the notion that Sunday is the Lord's day of rest, and that to make that a federal law.
Now, to whatever light this important lady had to say, she's speaking from her heart. She never knew that Project 2025 will pass or will bring this Sunday law legislation. But it clearly tells us that a time is coming that there will be a lot of restrictions. It will begin in the United States of America. They are just waiting for the beast system to be completed. And once it is completed, then force can be applied. It is something like this. I better put in this perspective. Today everyone has got mobile phones, isn't it? Did someone force you to buy the mobile phone? No, I have not come across anyone who said to me that it was mandatory that I had to buy the mobile phone. You see how the Sunday law will come. It's so important for us to understand how the Sunday law will come. Remember, the cancel culture will be implemented very soon. Many Seventh-day Adventists will not even know that the Sunday law has been passed because they are too busy in the world and they are drunk with the cares of this world. They will not know. But you see how the devil will bring it in. So now, mobile phones. It was not mandatory that everyone should buy mobile phones, smartphones, no. But everyone has a smartphone. Why? Because they don't want to be left out. They want to be part of the system, and that's how the devil is working. Well, mobile phones have advantages and disadvantages. That's true. Remember, the devil always mixes truth with almost truth. He mixes good with almost good. That's how the devil works. And therefore, when the Sunday law will be passed, and when the B system is completed, it is just that you don't want to be left out from the B system because you want to continue with your career, you want to continue with your job, you want to continue with your business, you want to continue with your institution that you have built up, and the list goes on and on. Well, let me tell you this, my dear brothers and sisters. You need to look at heavenly Canaan. Don't look at earthly Canaan. Look at the heavenly Canaan. Even if you should lose everything in this world, but if you have made sure that you can be safe in God's kingdom, nothing like it. So this beast system is going to shake many Seventh-day Adventists very soon. And a day is coming that everyone would also have to go to church. When? Not on Saturday, but on Sunday.
Probably we should be debating a bill requiring every American to attend a church of their choice on Sunday to see if we can get back to having a moral rebirth.
To have a moral rebirth? Well, the great controversy tells us here, the Bible declares that before the coming of the Lord, there will exist a state of religious declension. What is that? It means a condition of decline or moral deterioration, similar to that in the first centuries. So history will repeat. And so, once the beast system is completed, we know on day one, this law will be enacted, the Sunday law.
The first law that our country should bring back at the county or state levels should be a Sunday blue law. And that should be to restrict ordinary commerce so that people would be encouraged to attend church. That's first step legally.
So the first step is to bring the Sunday law in America. That is the first step legally. So you see how serious it is. And therefore, majority of Seventh-day Adventists will honor Sunday. Now this is a very bold and hard statement that I'm making. But we cannot hide truth. We have to speak the truth. I know all Adventists want to be safe in God's kingdom. But remember, majority of Seventh-day Adventists will be lost. Why do I say this? Look at the pen of inspiration. It says, as the Sabbath has become the special point of controversy throughout Christendom, and religious and secular authorities have combined to enforce the observance of the Sunday, the persistent refusal of a small minority to yield to the popular demand will make them objects of universal execration. It does not say a big majority. It says a small minority. So what happened to the majority? Obviously, they have joined with the world in transgressing God's law. It will be urged that the few who stand in opposition to an institution of the church and a law of the state ought not to be what? tolerated, that it is better for them to suffer than for whole nations to be thrown into confusion and lawlessness. Now keep in mind the climate change. Now we have talked about climate change, and I don't want to go down that road again. But we know that there is no climate change. If you have watched my past presentation, you can see clearly that the earth can handle itself. It's like the human body. Remember when God created Adam and Eve, God put 20 vital force into Adam. Today there's only one vital force in humans. Why? Because down the centuries, man has abused his body to a great extent that 19 vital force has disappeared. Had God not put 20 vital forces into Adam, the human race would have been extinct. So also when God created the earth, God knew that man will abuse the earth. And therefore, God created this earth, that this earth can handle the abuse inflicted on this earth. So here this small minority will stand in defiance against church and state. And the world will say, it is better to get rid of them than for the whole planet to suffer. Now remember when Jesus Christ was crucified, it was a similar situation where the Jews and the rabbis and the Pharisees and the Sadducees cried out, as you look in John chapter 11 verse 15, now consider that it is expedient for us that one man should die for the people, and that the whole nation perish not. Better for Jesus to die than for our nation, the Jewish nation, to perish under Roman rule. You see, history is repeating. So the same argument many centuries ago was brought against Christ by the rulers of the people. Same argument. And the same argument will be there for you and for me. But let us stand firmly for Jesus. And it says, a decree will finally be issued against those who hallow the Sabbath of the fourth commandment, denouncing them as deserving of the severest punishment and giving the people liberty after a certain time to put them to death. Romanism in the old world and apostate Protestantism in the new will pursue a similar course towards those who honor all divine precept. And then human laws will be made so stringent that men and women will not dare to observe the 7-day Sabbath. For fear of wanting food and clothing, they will join with the world in transgressing God's law. And that's the reason why I'm having this presentation, is to encourage God's people and to prepare God's people what is coming. We have to make preparations. We have to make physical preparation, we have to make mental preparation, and we have to make spiritual preparation in order to meet this crisis. So majority will join the world. And so, question is, will every living SDA souls make it to heaven? Look at this quotation from Sister Ellen G. White. It is a solemn statement that I make to the church. Which church? God's end time church, the Seventh-day Adventist church, that not 1 in 20, so not even 1 in 20, whose and would be as verily without God and without hope in the world as the common sinner. So you may be going to church, you may be reciting Bible verses, you may be giving special songs in church, you may be preaching in church, but if you have not repented sorrowfully to God and transform your life by the help of the Holy Spirit, you will be called as the common sinner. And so, my question now is, what is the population of Seventh-day Adventists? Now, I'm talking this ratio, 1:20. Say it is 1:20. Well, it means only one person is saved out of 20 people. Okay, if it is 1:20, but it's not 1:20. It means the rest are lost. Now, what is the population of our church? Well, 1:20 is 5%. What is the population? It's 23 million. Some may say 22 million, but let's put it at 23 million. What is 5% of 23 million? It's 1,150,000. You see, the majority of Adventists will be lost. It's very sad. Many believe that they will be saved, but they will not be saved. Because many Sabbath keepers, many Seventh-day Adventists have not learned how to keep the Sabbath. And when the Sabbath test comes, many will join the world in transgressing God's law. Why? For the wanting of food and clothing, for the wanting of surviving in this world. And therefore many Seventh-day Adventists will join the beast system. And that beast system will take them to perdition. And so, remember, in our generation, the last generation, worship will be the issue. The Sabbath Sunday issue will divide the world's population into two groups. As it says here, I saw that the Holy Sabbath is and will be the separating wall between the true Israel of God and unbelievers, and that the Sabbath is the great question to unite the hearts of God's dear waiting saints. So here now, we're on the crossroads. Right now, because there is no persecution. Right now, because the beast system has not canceled you. We all will say, yes, I will stand for the Lord. I will keep Sabbath. But wait for the beast system to come and take control of our lives. And that's the time you will know who is a true Seventh-day Adventist and who is not. You may have your name in the church book. You may be the Sabbath school superintendent. You may be a great preacher. But when persecution comes, and when the beast system takes control of your life, that is the time you will know whether really you stand for Jesus or for the devil. So it is coming. And so are you ready to stand like Daniel? Dare to be a Daniel. Dare to stand alone. Are you ready? The whole world was converted, it says, and in harmony with the Sunday law. And this little feeble people stood out in defiance of the laws of the land and the law of God, and claimed to be the only ones right on the earth. We are going to have this experience very soon when the whole world will be converted and will be in harmony with the Sunday law. And here we'll be defying the world and saying that that is not the Lord's day, but that is the false day of worship. And the whole world will look at you and say, do you think you're the only one who is right on this earth? What will you do? Are you ready to take this position? That is the question. Are you ready? Remember the civil government under the guise of national unity and the church under the guise of a false religious revival will be used to enforce Sunday rest. And so church and state will unite. So under these great pressures, will you be able to stand for Jesus? Remember, under pressure, you either crumble or you either make diamonds. You know, diamonds are made under great pressure. What will you be when the crisis comes? Will you stand for Jesus? Remember, under pressure, character is revealed. When there are trials, your character will be revealed. And so, the mark of the beast will be urged upon us, those who have step by step yielded to worldly demands and conformed to worldly customs, will not find it a hard matter to yield to the powers that be, rather than subject themselves to derision, insult, threaten, imprisonment, and death. So when you are under this pressure because of the beast system, where you cannot buy or sell, would you go through persecution or will you avoid persecution? Yield it to worldly demands. You know, we are all trying to play the balancing act today, and we are all telling ourselves, well, once the Sunday law comes, then I will stand for Jesus. This is what is happening. But here the Lord is saying, the devil is so clever that he is leading many of God's people step by step into the world. And therefore we need to come out of Babylon. We need to come out of Egypt, just like how ancient Israel was brought out from Egypt by the hand of God. As we look, go back to Exodus chapter 13, where it says, there Moses is telling the people, remember this day in which ye came out from Egypt, out of the house of bondage. Means God has made a way for you to come out from the bondage of sin. And the Lord is saying, I have brought you out from darkness into this marvelous light. And here you have to be different. Now here, ancient Israel were partaking the unleavened bread. Now remember, yeast represents what? Sin and grace. Now here it's representing sin. So here the Lord is saying, I have brought you out of Egypt, and you have to partake unleavened bread. You have to bring about a change in your lifestyle so that you can be a witness. Because verse 8 is saying that thou shalt show thy son in that day. So we have to show to the world about this change in your life. And therefore we are not to yield to this power that is going to pressurize us in order to worship on Sunday. And we have not to yield to this beast system that is just before us. Why? Because we are to reveal God's system in this world, because the Lord says, "Let your light so shine before men that they may see your good works and glorify" whom? Not yourself, your Father which is in heaven. So the Lord wants us to be a peculiar people, a chosen generation, a royal priesthood. We're all high priests, and holy nation, a peculiar people, that ye should show forth the praises of him who hath called you out of darkness into his marvelous light. Now, the beast system is coming. Now, many of you will be thinking in your minds, what should I do? Remember, I'm not saying that you should not work out in the world. That's not what I am saying. In fact, God opens doors for you to work out in the world. But for what? What is the agenda? What is the agenda of God for you to answer your prayer and to make you be able to work in a company out in the world? Is it right or wrong? People are battling with this question. But remember, you have to be like a good Jesuit. You have to infiltrate and reveal God's system wherever you are working. And therefore the question is, how are you at your workplace? You may be working with Infosys, you may be working with Microsoft, you may be working in a great hospital, but the Lord is saying, are you revealing God's system in your workplace? And so the question is, how are you at your workplace? Are you angry at your workers? Is this what the Lord wants you to do at your workplace? Remember, it's not only for your survival. God will take care of your family with your job. The Lord wants you to be what? A witness. And therefore the Lord opened doors for you. But sadly, many have forgotten that they have to be a witness for God wherever they are working. Question, are you kind to your customers? If you're in the marketing department, you come across people in the world, you are a Seventh-day Adventist, but are you revealing God's system or are you revealing the beast system? Are you kind to your customers? The Holy Spirit has to work in your heart so that you can bear the fruits of the Spirit. And if you're the boss of a company, are you applying God's principle at your office? Or are you applying the beast system at your office? What system are you applying? And therefore, I'm not saying that everyone should be independent, should be self-sufficient. Well, that is the ultimate goal because we know what is coming. But I'm not saying that you cannot work out in the world. You can work out in the world, but you need to implement God's system. You need to implement God's principle. You cannot be the boss like a pagan. No, you have to be a Christ-like boss to impart that compassion, that system that brings joy and happiness in the hearts of your workers, of your customers, of the company at large. Are you doing that wherever you're working? And that's a personal question you need to ask yourself. Therefore, whenever you're out in the world, remind yourselves that you are what? a shining light to this world. You're a light on a hilltop. You have to be a witness because the end is coming soon. Or have you, or are you too ashamed to reveal God's biblical principle? There are many Seventh-day Adventists who are working out in the world like a worldly worker. They go to work, they act like the world. On Sabbath, they act like a Seventh-day Adventist. You have to be a 7 days Adventist. For 7 days, you have to be a 7-day Adventist. But sadly, many Seventh-day Adventists are ashamed to reveal God's biblical principles at their workplace. They are just good people, not to harm anyone, but not to share the gospel news to your co-workers, to your boss, to the people working in the company. And now, last, are you solving the problems the biblical way or worldly way? How are you solving problems today? You know, these are all practical questions. How are you solving your problems? Tit for tat? Is it the biblical way that you are trying to solve your problems with someone or with the company or with whomever? And that is where faith comes into play. Take your burdens, let not your heart be troubled. What Jesus said, believe in me. You have to give your burdens to Jesus, and Jesus will solve your problems. But many at times we try to solve the problems the way we want to, and we want it to be the worldly way. And therefore, whatever you do in this world, we have to go God's ways, not the devil's ways. The beast system is coming. Control systems will be in place. What will you do at that time? Eventually you will lose your jobs. That is true, unless you bow down to the beast and to the image of the beast. You will lose your job, no doubt about that, and therefore now is the time to make that physical preparation, to make that spiritual preparation in your lives. And therefore, we should not have that friendship with the world. Yes, you can be kind to the people in the world, but keep in mind that you need to be a witness. And therefore, the Bible clearly warns us not to love the world. Love not the world, neither the things that are in the world. If any man love the world, the love of the Father is not in him. Let us not fool ourselves. If not, we will miss both the worlds. But let us give our heart to Jesus. For all that is in the world, the lust of the flesh and the lust of the eyes and the pride of life, is not of the Father, but is of the world. Very clear message given to us. And the world passeth away. So the world is going to be destroyed, it will be gone away, and the lust also thereof. But he that doeth the will of God abideth forever. So it is very clear. What should we do now as we near the Sunday law that is coming very soon? It says, it is no time now for God's people to be fixing their affections or laying up their treasure in the world. Today when I go around and meet people, I am startled because many Seventh-day Adventists are making future plans for the next 10 to 15 years. And I'm saying to myself, don't they know that things are winding up? That the beast system is coming to pressurize God's people, and yet they are making worldly plans for the next 10 to 15 years? Do we have that time? And then it says, the time is not far distant when, like the early disciples, we shall be forced to seek a refuge in desolate and solitary places. Remember when Jesus Christ was arrested? Where were his disciples? Oh, they scattered. They fled away. And of course, Peter kept a distance, watching where they will take Jesus. The same thing will happen in the end of time. If we are not prepared, we will be scattered. And as the siege of Jerusalem by the Roman armies were the signal for flight to the Judean Christians, so the assumption of power on the part of our nation in the decree enforcing the papal Sabbath will be a warning to us. It will then be time to leave the large cities. Now some will say, well, here I got a quotation saying that when the Sunday law is passed, that is the time to leave large cities. And so now I shouldn't leave the large cities. But you need to read this in context. These are 11th hour workers. There are many who do not have this light of truth as we Seventh-day Adventists. There are people in the world, to whatever light they have, they are in the cities. And eventually when the loud cry comes, we will give out this message, the fourth angel's message, to come out of Babylon. Many will come out. They will see what the Sunday law is all about. And well, there will be Seventh-day Adventists who are evangelists, pastors, preachers who are working day and night in the cities. The moment they hear the Sunday law, it's time to leave. Leave the cities. And this is what it says. It will then be time to leave the large cities, preparatory to leaving the smaller ones for retired homes in secluded places among the mountains. And now, instead of seeking expensive dwellings here, we should be preparing to move to a better country. Which country is that? Is that America? Because a lot of people want to go to America and to settle in America. Is it America? No, America is going to speak like a dragon. But it is that heavenly Canaan. We should be preparing to move to a better country, even a heavenly. Instead of spending our means in self-gratification, we should be studying to do what? To economize, because the beast system is going to bring pressure upon God's people where you cannot buy and sell. And therefore we need to practice economy, to eat less, to spend less, to skip a meal sometimes, so that you can be prepared for what is to come. And then it says here, I saw that the remnant were not prepared. So this is what Sister Ellen G. White saw. The remnants were not prepared for what is coming upon the earth. Stupidity, like lethargy, seem to hang upon the minds of most of those who profess to believe that we are having the last message. This is our condition. Lukewarm Christians, lukewarm Seventh-day Adventists. Let us face reality, because as we near the Sunday law, I pray that many of us will be awake and that we will be strong when the test will come. I saw that God's people are on the enchanted ground, and that some have lost nearly all sense of the shortness of time. I could just see for myself that the majority of our people have lost all sense of the shortness of time. Pride has crept in among Sabbath keepers, pride of dress and appearance, said the angel, Sabbath keepers will have to die to self, die to pride and love of approbation. So this is what is coming for God's people. And so there are two roads that you can take. And I pray that we will take the right road, not the road that will take you to the beast's power. This beast system is going to enslave every human being on this earth. We will be taken to the slaughter. And I pray that we will remain faithful till the end, and that we will remain as wheat, remain as sheep, and not be the tares or the goats. So as the beast system comes, we have to make sacrifices. As it says here, the true followers of Christ will have sacrifices to make. They will shun places of worldly amusement because they find no Jesus there, no influence which will make them heavenly minded and increase their growth in grace. Obedience to the Word of God will lead them to come out from all these things and be separate. Those who would be worshippers of the true God must sacrifice every idol, every spiritual idol. Jesus said, "Thou shalt love the Lord thy God with all thy heart, and with all thy soul, and with all thy mind." The great head of the church, who had chosen his people out of the world, requires them to be separate from the world. He designs that the spirit of his commandments, by drawing his followers to himself, shall separate them from worldly elements. To love God and to keep his command is far away from loving the world's pleasures and its friendship. There is no concord between good and bad. And therefore we need to learn to love Jesus with all our hearts. Unless and until you love Jesus, then only can you keep all the commandments of God. And so as this law of worship will come very soon, let us remain faithful and true till the end. So let's bow our heads for prayer. Our gracious and heavenly Father, thank you for your word. Thank you for the pen of inspiration that has enlightened us to know what is coming before us. We know the devil will try to use forceful measures to pressurize us so that we will bow down and worship on the wrong day. But Lord, I pray that you give us that strength from above, that when the test will come for each one of us, that we will remain faithful and true till the end, so that we can shout and say when you come in the clouds of heaven that he will save us. And I pray, Lord, that that day will be a reality, that we will be safe in your kingdom. Thank you for hearing our prayers, for I pray in Jesus' name. Amen. So may God bless each one of you, and I shall see you next Sabbath at the same time. God bless you. Maranatha.